Hey everybody, it's Andy Tyndall. Thanks for tuning in. The show is going to get started in just a little bit. What I want you to think about is, what was your quality of life when you were growing up as a kid? What were some of the adults doing for their jobs or their professions back when you were a kid? I ask these two questions because oftentimes we end up being what we see around us. But that's not always the case. My guest today, James Townsend, is uniquely qualified to talk about why that's not always true. You see, his family started out on a sharecropping farm back in Hermondale, Missouri in the early 1950s. His mom and his dad were sharecroppers. They eventually moved up to Chicago, Illinois, where James grew up and went on to become one of the first wave of black athletes from Chicagoland to win scholarships to play basketball in the NCAA. This guy actually went on to become the first wave of black State Farm agents in the state of Illinois. In fact, he was one of the first 5 out of roughly 1,000 people during the early 1990s. In my personal opinion, he's really not supposed to be there. In fact, I actually think his family did a generational jump going from sharecropping to State Farm. So what I'll ask you to do is listen to James's journey about becoming something he never saw. Hope you enjoy. Hey folks, welcome to the Human Side of Greatness podcast. I am your host, Andy Tyndall. Thank you for joining us today. Today we got a great story really focused on humility, education, and forward progress in a time where there often was none. Our guest today is a former educator, a former insurance agent that you may not recognize on the street today, but he touched and affected so many different lives throughout the Chicagoland community. We want to welcome Mr. James Townsend to our show. Mr. Townsend, welcome, sir.
Thank you, and I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to be a part of your show.
It is our pleasure, So, at the top of every show, we kick off with just, some simple questions. And so question for you, Mr. Townsend, back during your career as an educator, as an insurance agent, what was your favorite day of the week?
My favorite day of the week was Friday.
Friday, okay.
Really, every day of the week was good for me. I enjoy my job as an educator. I enjoyed it. Okay. I was fortunate to give back to the communities that I worked in. And that's what I learned from being in the community that I grew up in, Oak Hill Gardens, far south side of Chicago. The teachers gave to us and made a major difference in our lives, those teachers that we had in the 60s. And I can say that because we were fortunate. Chicago itself is made up of 77 different communities.
Okay.
Our community was on the far south side of the city, a little housing project called Oak Hill Gardens. We were fortunate in that when teachers, in my opinion, when teachers came to the city of Chicago, they went downtown, applied for a job. When they saw that those teachers were Black, they assigned many of those teachers to Oak Hill Gardens in the 60s as they were coming from the south to the north looking for better opportunities.
Better quality of life.
Yes, that assignment enhanced our lives because they believed in us, the ones they were teaching. They believed in us. The love that they had come to know in the South, they provided it to us in the North. And that's why I'm sure so many of us in that community succeeded and broke the chain and came out of that community. Many of us are professionals now, but it started with the base of those great teachers. And then from your home life, you tie those two in, and you have a winning combination. So, and the quote productive people that we saw in our lives then were the teachers, because they would come into our community every day, teach us, and then go back home. They were the ones that we strive to be, if you know what I'm saying. That's who we saw. We didn't see doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs coming through the community, you know. So teachers were our main influences, and they gave their all to us. I remember one lady specifically, Mrs. K.E. Brown.
Okay.
Miss K.E. Brown was my about fifth grade teacher. I had to be 11, 12 years old. Came to Chicago, and they put her in that school, elementary school. She was going to stay there for 1 year. To my knowledge, she finished her career there in Altgeld. I left her in fifth grade, graduated from high school, graduated from college, came back as a teacher. I went back to her classroom.
Where she was teaching?
She was still teaching, yes. I went back to her classroom after I graduated from college and said, if you all listen to this lady, you can get to college and finish college like I did. You know, I remember going back to her class, and she finished her career there, although she had planned on only staying that 1 year. She stayed her entire year, career. Yeah.
So are you telling me that your favorite day was every day because you were surrounded and influenced by so many great teaching professionals?
Yes. I emulated them, wanted to be them. That's what they did. Yeah. And feel fortunate to have touched people's lives, you know, because they've touched mine, and were able to go back and let some of them know that, you know, she was just one of the many. About Miss K. Brown, but I specifically went back to her class, you know. Yeah.
So for you, in terms of your family, did you have teachers in your family and that sort of thing? Or, you know, why was education even remotely important in your family life?
No, I'm the first in our family to finish high school, first to finish college, first to be a teacher, first to be an agent. And interesting you to ask that, because everything I did, the other people in my family did the same thing that I did. Because they were able to see it. They became teachers and insurance people and productive citizens. You know what I'm saying? Because they were able to see it. I was the oldest of 8. But no, we didn't have that. My father, mom and dad,
okay,
they were sharecroppers back in the 40s. I was born in 50. We stayed in a town. I was born in a town called Hermondale, Missouri.
Never been there, sir, but it sounds interesting.
Okay. Hermondale is just north of Blytheville, Arkansas. If you ever driven from Chicago to Memphis, you drive right through Blytheville. They call it Blytheville, Arkansas. Hermondale was 8 miles north of there. Okay. That's where my mom and dad sharecropped. She would pick the cotton and chop the cotton, and you had to get the weeds out of it, and then chopping, you have to get the weeds out of it, and picking at the fall, you pick the cotton from the bulbs. So she would do that, and she would get up to 400 pounds a day. I heard she was tough in her time. But we hung with that, I guess, until about when I was 50 to year 52 or 53. I was about 3 years old.
Okay.
We left there. Fortunately, we left there and migrated to St. Louis.
Whole new world.
Yes. But I'm so fortunate that they had the courage to venture into the whole new world. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Looking for those opportunities. Because I have a second cousin that was born in Hermondale. He passed in Hermondale about 6 months ago. All his life been in Hermondale. See what I'm saying? So I'm fortunate my parents went to St. Louis. So we hung there. 3 children were born in St. Louis. Then they packed up and moved to Chicago.
What led them to Chicago?
My dad, who, like I said, couldn't read and write, he followed his big brother. Wherever his big brother went, he went, Uncle Ernest. And we were fortunate to have Uncle Ernest. Uncle Ernest was the lead of the family. Okay. He always called himself the lead goose. When I look in the sky today and see gooses flying south or wherever they're flying, and they fly in that beast shape, I think of my Uncle Ernest. That's Uncle Ernest. That's that lead goose. That's what he tells me.
That's a powerful image.
but he could read and write, and I'm sure my daddy, that's his biggest brother, tagged along with him. Uncle Ernest came to Chicago. He picked his family up and followed Uncle Ernest to Chicago. So we lived on the south side in Bronzeville, 641 East 41st Street to be exact. That's where we live.
Great part of town.
Yeah. So we hung out there, and Uncle Ernest decided to go back south. I said, "Uncle, why did you leave Chicago?" He said, "Didn't fit him." That's what he told me. It did not fit him. So he took his family back. My mom said, "We staying." So we ended up staying in Chicago, stayed there in the Bronzeville area.
So, Mr. Townsend, let me ask you, do you ever feel or believe that, just possibly that your uncle's role in your life, Uncle Ernest's role in your life, was to get you guys from St. Louis to Chicago?
Yes. And his other siblings from Hermondale to St. Louis. That was his role, because when he got to Hermondale as a young man, he decided not to stay in Hermondale and chop cotton and pick cotton. He put his age up and he went to the service. By him going to the service, from me traveling, I understand. By him going to the service, he saw the world was more than Hermondale, Missouri. See what I'm saying?
Big time.
So when he returned, and he had already made a promise to his mom that she died early, that he would look out for his brothers and sisters. So it was his objective to get and he did. Each one of his brothers and sisters, he got them out of Hermondale to St. Louis, It's just like my dad and I, we just stopped into Chicago and didn't go back. But Uncle Ernest did that. He led that family out. He did.
Okay, so oldest of 8, and had a nice illustrious career, both education as well as insurance and that sort of thing. How did you even get started in that world? Was that your background? Is that what you went to school for?
Started out in education. Went to school to be a gym teacher.
Okay.
Went to college in Orange City, Iowa, a little school called Northwestern College, Orange City, Iowa. Went out there in '68.
What was that like?
It's on the northwest side of the state, community full of Dutch. So I left from the community of Black and went to a community full of Dutchmen,
It's not the same? That's not the same as that kind of people?
No, that's totally different, man. Keys left in your car unlocked, all that kind of stuff, But it prepared me for two things. It prepared me for the education part, to be an educator, and it prepared me to deal with the people in the world. State Farm, corporate America. That's what Northwestern College did for me. It prepared me educationally wise, because I went there for education, to be an educator.
Okay.
And two, because of having to deal with a different terrain, it prepared me for the world. That's what it did in the long run. It prepared me for the world.
So you said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm good.
So you said it prepared you for a different terrain. So what did that terrain look like, going from a community of, majority Black people to a community of predominantly Dutch people?
Yeah. There, I looked up. I was on the basketball team there. So people in the community knew me when I did not necessarily know them. But by working with me and some great people there that encouraged, it was about 4 Blacks from Chicago there, 4 from Chicago Carver, and about 10 Blacks total in the population of 900 students, 10 Blacks total. But they were a caring community, and that terrain there prepared me for the terrain in the world, in the State Farm, who was, at the time when I went into insurance company, when I went into insurance, that terrain was 95% white also, you follow me? So I was able to work in that terrain because I had dealt with that terrain at Orange City. So they prepared me. That's what I mean by that.
Great connection. And so you are in the insurance business. In terms of that lifestyle, if we look at the makeup of African Americans at the time in the Chicagoland area, what was that like?
I would think it was the makeup at that time of agents in that arena was probably 95% white at that time, 95 easily. So once again, I was a major minority in that sector for the community that I serve, very much so. Yeah.
So you just decided to apply one day? Like, how did that work out? If you never had you like known about that field before? Like, how did you just come to be in the insurance business just out of the blue?
Good. Yeah. Over the years, I continued to play basketball when I finished at Northwestern. We played in men's leagues here in Chicago, Avalon Park, different parks, Washington Park over the years. And I had a good friend there by the name of Oliver Banks. Oliver Banks and I have known each other since the 60s. His uncle and my dad hung out together in Oak Hill Gardens. Oliver Banks went to school in Arkansas, and he had the connections to become an agent. When he became an agent, then later on, he introduced me to his manager. Through us playing basketball is when we got to be intimate. We played basketballs on the weekend. Guys professionals would get together, play basketball on Saturday night, then you sit around and talk about the world. From those conversations over the years, he introduced me to a manager, and that's how I interviewed. And the whole interview process back then in the 90s took about 2 years before they decided on who they were going to hire in that company. Yeah.
So you're saying that for you to get in the door took 2 years. Mm-hmm. I've never heard of a 2-year-long interview process in today's modern day society. So that's a heavy interview process.
Yes, they go back and back. They went back, up and down, round and round. Yes, they did. Yep.
Wow. Yeah. So is it safe to say, or fair to say, that you were one of the pioneers of agents from a diverse background at that time? You were laying the foundation for everyone that was going to come after you all these many years later.
I think with that company, what they did, I was just in the Chicago neighborhood, but I think in that era, it's changed now, I can tell you that, but in that era, they hired a lot of educators. They hired educators to run their offices, to become their independent office agents. I think it's for 2 reasons. They knew educators, when you're an educator, you got to be dedicated to doing what you're doing, number one. But the second part is educators, and I would think in most towns, have a pension stored away somewhere.
Gotcha.
So for me, I couldn't go to daddy like somebody who daddy pays everything for him during that era. I couldn't go to my daddy and say, I'm just throwing a number out, $50,000, I want to start an office, because you got to have money to start a business.
Got to have money to start a business.
I think what they knew in that time frame, what they were doing it that way, educators had that money. You see what I'm saying? Because I took money from my pension that I had stored up as an educator during that time. That's what I started my office with, if that makes sense. That's where I started it.
That totally makes sense to me.
Total commitment. You see what I'm saying?
So you essentially took a risk and you invested in yourself as opposed to waiting for somebody else.
Yes, that's what I did. I took the money down from my pension from the Board of Education, and I used that money to open my office, because the money you have to, as a scratch agent, you have to build yourself up for the first couple of years before money started coming to you. So it was that base. That's how I got started there after the introduction, and going round and round for about almost 2 years. Yeah.
Wow. So from the standpoint of starting off, in today's society, some folks may get help from friends or sometimes from the company itself, regardless of whatever field they might be in, when they're building that business. What kind of help did you get from the organization itself at that point in time?
The name.
Excuse me?
the name of the company for the most part. That's it. Nothing, the name, that's it. No, there was no loans or nothing coming through there. Nothing.
So for your community, I know you did a lot, but like, how were you able to connect with the various households and the people that you ended up having as clients?
That came from me being out in the community, putting stickers on cars because they needed to be represented in that community that I was in. Remember, I told you 77 communities? This was a community on the southeast side of Chicago. That company had no representation. So I was the representation of that company. They can say, now we everywhere. You know what I mean? So, and that name was a name that drove people in, those that could qualify. Everybody can qualify for anything. Any salesman can't sell nothing if the person doesn't qualify. So it's the numbers, but that name there did the help. That's what they gave, but no money from their end, just the bonuses and the sales that I took. I took bonuses, vacations when I sold enough life insurance and went to trips for them, Italy and Hawaii, different trips that I've won,
So getting to see the world as a result of your hard work.
That's right.
Yeah.
Vienna, Austria. Yeah. So, yep.
Really sounds amazing. And at the same time, giving opportunities to people in that part of the community that would never have had access to some of these different instruments and vehicles that you were bringing to the table for them. So we just applaud you. I applaud you.
Okay. And that is true. And when I left education from that sector to the insurance sector, I was still an educator. I was educating the community about insurance. That's how I looked at it, still an educator, pulling them in under the wing of that big umbrella. Yeah. Got
it.
Yeah.
So to go back to your college days, you said, you went to school in Iowa.
Yeah.
Chicagoland, Iowa.
Yeah.
Was there some sort of scholarship involved, or did you just pick a school off of pick a school out of a hat?
Yeah. You know what? It was. I really found out how I got to Northwestern College in Orange City, Iowa. Mm-hmm. I found out how I got there in 2011. I found out the exact route why I was there.
How long ago? But you went to school back in the 60s, right?
Yeah, 68. I graduated in 72. So this was the 40th year reunion in 2011 was the 40th year reunion of our winning the championship in basketball in Iowa, March of 1971. So 40 years later, it was a celebration of that championship. We were the best team in Iowa, so we were allowed to represent the state of Iowa in the NAIA conference in Kansas City, Missouri at that time. That's where they played.
The big stage.
Yes, yeah, big time. We were big time. Yeah. So at the 40th year reunion, a friend of mine I took by the name of Barry Cheatham, and we just had a good time with the group. Found out there old Coach Yuffer. Coach Yuffer was not my high school coach, my college coach. Coach Yuffer was Barry's coach that first year. Coach Yuffer played Northwestern College played a Dakota Wesleyan University every year. Dakota Wesleyan is in Mitchell, South Dakota. Well, when they played Dakota Wesleyan every year, there was a guy on there by the name of Lloyd Piggy. Piggy, every year he played Northwestern, just had a hell of a game, So the coach said, well, wherever he came from, let us go there and find something. That's how he got to Carver looking for us, because of him, Piggy playing, Northwestern playing against Dakota Wesleyan University, the guy by the name of Lloyd Piggy. That's how he got to Carver looking for us.
So Lloyd Piggy. So Carver High School is what you're saying?
Yes.
You came to Carver,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Lloyd sounded like he was a showstopper. And so if his game was that good, are you telling me that the coach thought, hey, if there's one guy where his game is that good, there's got to be others?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is, and now you have to look at now let's go to the big picture for a moment, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Lloyd Piggy went out there in 1966. March of 1966, there was a school, Texas El Paso, Coach Haskins, March 1966. Texas El Paso, Coach Haskins started 5 black boys on this team that year in the NCAA March Madness thing, They beat Kentucky, University of Kentucky, Adolph Rupp, 1966, March. Adolph Rupp had just beat the University of Michigan. At the semifinal game, Kentucky beat the University of Michigan in the semifinal game. On that team was a guy by the name of Cazzie Russell. Cazzie Russell from Chicago Carver, 1962, went on to Michigan, and he was a standout. That new stadium they got in Michigan now was called the house that Cazzie built. In 66, he came out as a number 1 draft choice to New York, if I remember, the New York Knicks. But Cazzie played in the semifinal game. Usually coaches are at games like that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I'm assuming Piggy's coach was at that game and he saw Cazzie Russell play. That's what I'm assuming.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But the game after that game, I had to say that to say, the game after that game was Kentucky and University of Texas El Paso.
Okay.
Haskins beat Kentucky. He started 5 black boys. What that did, in my opinion, in basketball, it said it's okay to use black athletes at our schools now. That's what that did.
It sounds like it sent a message.
Okay. Yes, it sent a message. Yes, that's what I think. So if that's the case, Piggy's coach was there. He watched. So those are 2 games every coach watched. You follow me?
Oh, yeah.
So that may have been the reason he came to Chicago, maybe. But my college coach, Yuffa, sent the athletic director, Paul Meiskens, to Chicago because of Piggy coming to Orange City every year whooping our butt. He was a tough player. He was Mr. South Dakota. Piggy whooped butt. He was a bad dude. But that's how I ended up with the invite to Northwestern College, and all I wanted to do, all of my objective was to get to college and get a college degree. I was going to be the first in the family from high school, college, and doing something. You follow me? So that's how I got there.
Without a doubt. So where does that come from in terms of you going, but you're, unlike a lot of other athletes who get scholarships, you're focused on more so the education, the academic side of things, as opposed to the sports and all that goes along with that. Where does that come from? Is it a family thing? Like, how does that get instilled in you?
Yes, it is. My father, who could not read and write, would always tell my mom he don't want his kids to grow up like him. That's what he would say. Berta, I don't want my kids to grow up like them. Send them to school. And we went. His proudest moments when we all graduated from high school. All he wanted us to do was graduate from high school. He lived long enough to see 7 of his kids graduate.
Graduate from high school.
Yep. And all of us are fortunate enough to graduate from high school and move on to higher education, all of us. So that was wonderful. But my objective all along had been to get to college. Had it not been Northwestern, it would have been somewhere else. I was in the National Honor Society in high school. And I was number 4 in my graduating class, and I was just doing what I did, studied, and nothing major. I studied, worked. I worked for about 2-3 years in high school.
In high school, working.
YMCA. downtown Chicago. I rode the bus down every day after work, after school to work. So, but I was just doing what I had to do. And that was just get through high school, which I knew it was. And the next step was college. And I was fortunate enough to be on a winning basketball team in high school. Went to another one. We were 28-2 in my high school basketball. 28-2.
28-2.
Then from there, we went to Northwestern College. Neil Purvis and I went to Northwestern College. The high school coach would send, at this point of his life, he learned to send 2 or 3 people away to those different environments.
Why 2 or 3 different people? Why was that?
You have somebody to lean on to help you out a little bit. Coming from all black over here to all white over there, that transition can be hard. You know what I'm saying?
So again, trailblazing, right? And in a time where there was very similar to what we have right now in 2020, lots of civil unrest, lots of racial tension, that sort of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
What would that have been like? Describe what that was like for someone like you or any other guys coming from Chicagoland area to go into these all white environments. Was there lots of adversity, mental challenges, or just overall dislike for you guys being there? What was that like at that time?
Okay. I think that the group I was with, the guys that came from Chicago, it was adversity, but a lot of it we got over. We fortunately have a car and we go to different little college campuses. Okay. But the Orange City community was a nice community, and I think some of it was because I brought something to the community. As I said before, many people in the community knew me, and I didn't necessarily know them. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Because of the basketball thing. Yeah. So we were treated well. I've never been disrespected there. A few verbal words maybe here or there, but that's nothing because my eye was on the ball of getting that paper in May of 72. That was my objective. May of 72, getting that paper, walking across that stage, and that happened.
So it sounds like, if I'm hearing this correctly,
okay,
you almost kind of tuned it out.
Yes.
Any sort of racism or unkind behavior. It sounds like you just tuned it out.
And I think you hit it on the head, because let's look at the Jackie Robinson, right?
Yeah.
The movie Jackie Robinson.
Absolutely, yeah.
When you look at that, every person could not have fit that role that he had as that first black baseball player. Everybody couldn't fit that role. There are things he had to suck up and move on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Great movie. Great story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So lots of similarities as it relates to those things as well. From the standpoint of your family, you said your dad couldn't read and write.
Right.
To see 7 kids graduate from high school, how many in the family graduated from college also? That was my asking.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So 4 from college out of the 8.
4.
That's a good hit rate. 50% hit rate. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and the other 2 went to the Navy.
Okay.
The bottom 2 went to the Navy. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yep. Then the daughter got married. It was 8 of us, but he lived for 7. All 8 of them graduated from high school. Okay. 2 went to the Navy. The bottom 2 went to the Navy instead of college stuff.
Hey, still pushing the family image and the family line forward, which is great.
Yeah.
He must have been so proud of you guys. So
yeah, he was. He worked hard. And some of the proudest moments of his life were during the last 6 months that he lived. We, the 3 brothers, myself, the 2 brothers right after me, we played ball. We all went to college together and all of that. We bought them a home before he died. He had the opportunity to live in it 6 months, then he passed, But that was his proudest moment. We brought Mom and Dad a home on 119th Street. So he really, 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 really enjoyed that.
So that is just a magnificent accomplishment to not just make something of yourself, but then turn back around and give to those people who poured into you. Do you think that coming from their background as sharecroppers, did you think that they would ever believe that they would ever own their own home?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And in matter of fact, in buying that home, first time I ever did anything like that,
Wait, time
But
out.
what
Time out.
But what I said, okay.
So you're telling the people listening today that you didn't even own your own home.
That's correct.
And you took it up upon yourself and your two brothers. Hey, let's go buy a house and just give it away to our parents.
Yep. Man. That's what we did. That's exactly. And signing those papers, didn't know what I was doing, but I said, I will do this again. And in doing that again, once I left there, I enrolled in a real estate class. I became a realtor. Years after that, I became a real estate broker here in the state of Illinois. So that's what I did because of that incident, and I knew I would do it again.
So you guys buy this house. I'm blown away by this right now. You buy this house with your parents, and your dad is only able to live in it, enjoy it for 6 months. What was his name? Entrim,
Entrom, Entrim.
Entrim Townsend. Okay. So 6 months of living in this house that his three kids bought for him, the pride that must have run through him and run through your mom, that must have been so amazing to see and to experience at that point in time. And this is in the early 70s.
That's right. Probably about 75, 77, let's say. 77. Yeah, 77. Okay. 77. Yeah, 77. Yeah.
So now you decide, okay, I like this house thing. I'm going to become a real estate broker, an agent, and that sort of thing. Then you just kind of like transition into becoming an agent and helping other families, which is, again, such an amazing accomplishment coming from your background of not having anyone like that to see. You said your role models were teachers, not agents.
Yes, that's right. And the real estate, had a thought, just don't get age, don't age, man. It'll come back.
It's happening every day. I can't stop it.
Oh, I know. With the real estate, I was working as the board of ed too. See, so in the afternoons, I would do the real estate in the weekend, if you can picture that.
Okay.
And what happened with the real estate in '83, thereabouts, interest rates for homes went up to 13-14%. You follow me?
Sky high.
Interest rates went up 13-14% in '83, thereabouts, '84, '85. So with that, I kind of switched over to the insurance thing, if you know what I'm saying. But interest rate, they were not at 2% or 3% like they are today, 13%.
13%. Right. Yeah.
Yep. So
different time, different age.
Yes.
You mentioned the Board of Education and that sort of thing. Yeah. How much time did you spend there, and what was that part of your life like in terms of helping people, helping students, the future leaders of tomorrow?
Right. That was a good time in my life. I enjoyed it. I've inspired some youngsters I know that have been going to the professional basketball league, young man, but it ain't measured by that. I got a guy out there, saw on the internet about 7 months ago, talking about his old principal that suspended him and made him take a picture, So you influence them in different ways. Educators, this is what I found out about educators. Most of them do not know what influence they have on their students because of the way we spread out. So now you just don't run in, touch bases. It's not like a community in Rooster Poop, Mississippi, where everybody know everybody,
Yeah, not that tight knit. It's different.
That's right. And so you just don't know sometimes the influence that you had on that student. So, but educators make a difference. They do it. It's that nurturing. Like I said with Miss Kay Brown, I was in my formative years then, 11, 12 years old, so she impressed me. She really did. Yeah. And that's what happens. It takes that one kid can be impressed by you, or the family can be impressed by you, and you become their mentor all along. In Altgeld, because of the small knit community, teachers had a right to expect the same kind of attitude that I brought to the table, to the classroom. They had a right to expect it from my next 7 brothers and sisters, didn't they? They had a right to expect that. See, so it was easier. I'll tell James on you. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So it becomes a project that everybody's involved in. And when you get the involvement of everybody, you got a good thing. You got the teachers, you got the parents, the administrators, all on the same page. It's easy to educate somebody at that point.
So it sounds like, to me, it was a hands-on commitment to excellence from everyone involved.
Yes, when you have that, you get excellence on the other side. Yes, when you have that.
With that said, what's the highest level that you achieved in the board of education system in Chicagoland?
I started out as a gym teacher on the West Side, which was unusual because most people in Chicago, I mentioned about those 77 communities, most people don't go from the South Side, where I grew up, to the West Side. But I started out as a gym teacher over there and found out it's just like South Side. It's just the limits we put on it. It was just like the South Side. People love people that gave to them, and they respect people that came to them right. You treat people right, you get treated right. So then from there, I went to the counselor in that school. Then I left there and became an assistant principal. And what I found in the administration, you get the chance to affect the whole school, you know what I mean? So then when I left the assistant principal, I became a principal. Last assignment was a principal at one of the high schools here in Chicago, DuSable High School, one of the named after the founder of Chicago, Jean-Baptiste Point DuSable.
Exactly right. A little history lesson there. I like that.
Yeah. He was the man.
So for today, what can educators, folks who are dealing with students, in your personal opinion, what do you think they could do better to uplift the entire consciousness of the community as they're working with these students? Because I know there's some great teachers, a lot of great teachers out there today.
Yeah. The best thing that the teachers can do is involvement with those parents. Get to know the parents. Okay. You have to know the parents. They used to hate to see me coming. I would go to their homes. Don't nobody want to see no big 6'4" ugly dude knocking on their door, So, and when they know that the parents, in my case, it used to be a lot of grandparents, believe it or not. When them grandparents and the parents, you're on their side for the kid, 90% of them straighten up, and some of them, kids go through a lot too now. Some of them have so many things going on at the home too.
That's true. That's so true.
There's a lot of things going on. But the key for us and our family, we had the mom and the dad, because when he got off work at 9 o'clock, he didn't mind coming home, putting his foot up our butts if he had to, because he disciplined his house, He got off at 9, 10 o'clock. We all play like we sleep, but he'd wake us up if he had to, So if you got that course, with the core at the home, and I was fortunate enough to have that group of teachers I told you about coming from the South, that made the difference for us. So, and by going to the homes, that worked for me during my time. I went out to the homes, got to know the parents, and let them know I was there. Then what their kids would do, they'd tell other kids, that joker come to your house, man. He crazy.
So you took a personalized approach to the overall success of the community, the students, the teachers, the parents, everybody. That's just a fantastic approach. Now, this is a question I've been thinking about in the back of my mind.
Let me say on that.
Yeah.
That same approach was an approach that one of my teachers took, Mr. Carl Denham.
Tell me about him.
He was one of our teachers out there in Altgeld. just a dynamite guy. He'd be at the funerals and stuff. Mr. Denham's would be everywhere, Mr. Carl Denham. Similar approach, very similar approach as I think about it. Yep.
So did you pick that up from him and kind of?
I'm sure,
Okay.
but I've always been a personable person, but I'm sure that enhanced it, Okay. That enhanced it.
Yeah, no, just great persona all around since my time knowing you. From the aspect of your professional career,
okay.
How many families do you think you help to get access and just help them out from their personal family situation? How many families do you think over the how long was your career? How many years was your career?
I was at the Board of Ed for 25 years.
Okay. And so how many families from the school standpoint and how many families from your agent day standpoint do you think you were able to collectively help out?
Wow, man. That's
Because that's what this thing about life is all about. It's just really how many lives we can touch.
Never thought about it like that, but I've touched many families in the education sector, many. I can't put a number on it, but many, because I was at 3 or 4 different schools,
Okay.
I was at 4 different high schools. About 5 different elementary schools in the course of my career. Yeah, from the west side to the south side. That'd be hard to put a number on.
So just a ton of people, and if we think about it, it spans from generation to generation. So you help that first generation, or let's say you help an older sibling, then it goes down to the youngest sibling, and then so on and so forth. And then those folks grow up and they try to pattern after that and goes to their next generation coming up. So you had your ideology going through many stages of the family and in terms of generation to generation. So great job.
And I can let me add on that. There was just as you just said there was a gentleman in our community that did that same thing. His name was Larry Hawkins. He was the high school basketball coach. Larry Hawkins in Oakdale Garden touched families, just as you said, older brother, big brother, younger sisters. When he sent the brother to college, he sent the sister to college. He was a cheerleader. You're going to take her. If you want the basketball player here, you're going to take the sister too. But he touched generations, families, not just one person in the family, the superstar that everybody wanted. He dealt with average players, myself. My brothers and them started hanging with the coach. See what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So he dealt with families, just as you're saying, throughout the years. He's helped many of families. And when you get that, you have something to hold on to, That's the difference. Yeah.
So from a family structure, did you ever want your kids to kind of follow in your footsteps, whether that be in education or as an agent in that line of work? Was that ever a desire for you, or did you kind of just leave the door wide open for them to do what they wanted to do?
I left it wide open, but my daughter did follow in my footsteps for a while.
Okay.
Then she decided when she finished school, she did something totally different. So, yeah, but left that open. But that, as I look back in our families now, some of my nieces have followed in that footstep of the insurance and real estate. They followed in those patterns, Once again, exposure. Those jobs exist. Coming up, we didn't know nothing about teaching. Couldn't get on the Chicago police force in 1966. You know what I mean?
Different
68. Times. It was so many challenges you had to go through. Most of the time, from what I hear, those that tried came back, said they were flat-footed, so therefore they couldn't be in the Chicago Police Department. So that was never an option. I say that to say that wasn't an option for us. We didn't know any policemen, no firemen, so we couldn't do that. When you see something, you can see yourself doing it and becoming. Everybody, all of my dad's children have homes. Kentucky, Florida, here in the different communities, Frankfurt, Matson, Olympia Field. They all have homes. You see what I'm saying? When you see one person buy something, it's obtainable. Instead of we lived in a 4-bedroom housing project with cedar block walls. Cedar block, those blocks. That's what we had for a wall. I didn't know nothing about drywall or plaster.
It was just brick.
Yeah, that's right. That's all we had. Those were our walls within that building. Then I get in Oak Park and I have plaster everywhere. You see what I'm saying? Old plaster from a 100-year-old building. So, but you don't know that. I didn't know nothing about that until I got there. But now I can say I have family members all over in all aspects of everything I put my foot in. Somebody foot in our family is within that doing that.
Doing that.
That's right.
So you are definitely the role model for a lot of folks in the community. Definitely a lot of folks in the family, and I can't wait to see what the next generation of your family looks like. Because if I think back to the beginning part of your story, it starts off with sharecropping, and to see all this progress come from not 2 or 3 generations down after the sharecropping, but the very next generation after sharecropping to rise and lift themselves up is just simply a fascinating feat to me. And it's uncommon success because no one would expect that coming from that kind of background. And, that's what this podcast is all about. It's really identifying those uncommon successes where people are when they're really not expected or supposed to be there. So, my hat and my heart goes out to your family for all of the great work that you guys have put in over the years. So I got one final question for you.
Okay.
And so, Mr. Townsend, if you had, kind of look back over the course of your life and watch how you operated every single day, whether it's in, the education system or the insurance system, was there any sort of motto that you lived by or any sort of quote that you relied on to kind of keep you moving forward every day? And if you do have one, the audience would love to hear it.
Okay. There's one about Frederick Douglass, and it's, I don't know it right off the top, but similar. It's easier to build strong children than to correct old men, and something to that effect. And it is. It's easier to teach children to do the right thing, than it is to try to correct them on the penitentiary side of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely right.
You don't get them all, but it's easier to correct them going up than to try to correct them when they're on their way down. It is so much easier, In the schooling thing, going back to the coach, what we learned in the 70s as we were all in the schools, in elementary school, what we've learned that during that time, we'd go play different communities outside of Chicago. He was ahead of his time. What you would see in that different community is that the people that played in elementary schools in that community, their next level was to play in the high school within that community.
Okay.
So the elementary school people were teaching the high school stuff at elementary school. So when those that did make it there, they were on point. You know what I'm saying?
Ready to go.
What we did early on and started teaching on the West Side, myself and Lloyd Piggy, he ended up teaching on the West Side also. We started an elementary school basketball tournament over there when we were just getting started as young men. Elementary basketball tournaments were not going on here in the city of Chicago. But you start them young, then they know the basics, and those basics turn into something else in high school, and then they can move on. So it is easier to teach a young child than to correct an old man. Frederick Douglass. Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
My friend, I can't thank you enough. This has been a great session for me in terms of understanding more in the history of the Chicagoland on the basketball scene, on the education scene, as well as in your professional life in the insurance system.
Okay.
But just seeing your family rise from those early beginnings to achieve the success that you've helped them achieve by being the leader of the family at this point in time. And I hope that continues for you guys from generation to generation to generation. Mr. Townsend, thank you for being on the Human Side of Greatness today.
Okay. All right. You're quite welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.